I'm Nancy Sheed of Sheed Communications, and I'm excited to be here with Devin Rossiter, who is, as we've heard, an educator. He is also a two-time Jeopardy champ. And the reason we're here to talk to him today is I discovered Devin as the creator of the, hashtag 25 Days of Giving. So before we talk about why I created, I think we should start with just kind of explaining, if you don't mind, Devin, sort of what is the 25 Days of Giving? What does it sort of look like? And then we'll get back to sort of what brought you to creating it, if you don't mind.
This is a big time of year where I feel like we're all inundated with a lot of companies showing just how much they care and really driving home the point, how much they give. And a lot of them become these campaigns that are driven by philanthropy. It's a great form of marketing, but a lot of times, you don't really get to see the impacts that they have, and they're very impersonal to you as a consumer. Like, if the whole point is to connect you with a brand, that's great. But, we're led to believe that this is a season of giving, and yet the structures to do so are a lot of times just kind of imposed upon us, or they don't really feel all that real. So what the 25 Days of Giving does is every year I build a 25-day calendar from December 1st to December 25th. And each day has one act of either generosity, charity, or kindness that you yourself can enact and share with the world. And it doesn't have to be a big, generous, splashy donation you make. It can be something as simple as, give 5 random followers on your social media a compliment. These could be people you haven't interacted with or connected with in a very long time. In the past, it could have been something like give a present to your rideshare driver.
Right.
Like somebody's in your Uber and you give them a poinsettia and a cookie basket. Man, that person's going to feel great about that. It could be making a donation. Today's was being the first donor to a teacher on Donors Choose who has never had something funded before.
Nice.
It could be a big tip for a restaurant server. Something small that you can do to make a connection every day. And what's fascinating is by the time you get towards that 25th day, you now have this entire slate of experiences and personal impacts that you've been able to make on the lives of other people around you, either within your circle or outside of that, of your comfort zone. And so it's just a fulfilling, activity that I have been doing for a few years now that, I love being able to share with more and more people each year. And because of my experiences, not just with Google last year, but with Jeopardy this year, because there are more eyes on what I do, the impact of that has been greater than it's ever been. And it's a wonderful feeling.
I love that ripple effect. So just in case anybody's listening or as they're listening, where, and I'll put the links in, but where do they find your calendar, Devin? I found it on Twitter by using hashtag 25 Days of Giving, but is there a more direct place to go to find it?
There is. I mean, Twitter is the main way to go. I have it in my bio. So if you find me at Devin Rossiter, look at my profile, it's there. But there is also a bit.ly where you can download it quickly. That's bit.ly/25 days 2020.
Perfect. And I'll put that
he's capitalized. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely.
I want to go back to when you about why and so when you started it, but catch us up. So it's not you update the list every year, right? It's not the same 25. You edit it and and change it around. So 2020 has probably had to have the most overhaul, I would suspect. What was different about 2020's list?
2020 was a challenge because I wanted to minimize the amount of personal interactions as far as physical connections. But it also served as a really unique challenge that I was excited for, to be very creative in regards to ways in which we can support each other. So, there were some things that did hurt to really remove from that equation. One of my favorite ones in previous years was the Christmas Day one would be to bring cookies to the fire station because those guys got to work on that day.
Oh, nice.
And so, we would love doing that, but we wanted to be very precautious when it came to things like making food for other people or doing personal deliveries. But with that said, this is also the best time in history to have that challenge because we have so many ways of making those connections. and for people to feel a part of that, we had one a couple of days ago that was really fun in regards to building a bird feeder or planting a tree for your neighborhood. Um, in the past, we've done bird feeders, but we wanted to make sure that what we did had an impact. So we ran a poll on Twitter to see how we should go about that.
Right.
One of the options was to just buy a tree and, put it in our front yard, or we could foster a tree and donate it to a local park, or we could donate to the National Forest Foundation. So there are a lot of different ways that, I wanted to see how people could interact. And what I found was, even though people had their different votes from me, they ended up doing that themselves. So whichever they voted for, that was the one that they felt most inspired to go about. A lot of the tools that are out there, a lot of the platforms, things like Donors Choose that people might be familiar with, but never really had a reason to, other than maybe they knew a teacher, to connect with, strangers or, random people that maybe you overlook. Something simple like, leave a really nice note for your mail carrier, people who have had a really hard year.
Yeah.
Use a delivery service like a DoorDash or a Grubhub to send a meal to an essential worker. There are so many creative ways to show gratitude and appreciation through giving that, maybe a couple of years ago were inaccessible, but because of the urgency for us to kind of continue in, a progressive way as far as the way that we're used to, and the companies that have gotten very creative with the tools that have been created, it provided a wonderful opportunity, if for nothing else, to build upon the connection that we have and make new ones in new ways. And for a lot of people, it puts them out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, and I think I told you this, but so my journey to discover you was that same. It's different this year. It's December. We aren't doing the things we had planned. Looking for connections, and my story was going to be, let's make Giving Tuesday go across the whole month. But I did start Googling hashtags of, do other people do this? I don't want to recreate the wheel, and that's how I came across yours. Came across your amazing calendar. And I love that you've just mentioned the creativity. So our approach, and I'm doing this with family, is I came with your calendar. We'd made a list of sort of places we wanted to donate. And it really hasn't been this mashup of, okay, and the example was the tree, right? So we didn't do either one of those, but we had our local nature center on the list, right? So, so we found creative ways to at least use but in the same way, my son couldn't wait to go to McDonald's and, leave a cup of coffee for the person behind him. So I thank you for putting the action, and I think some structure around it that's been helpful and made it even more, engaging for us.